Here we go. You are now listening to Random Ramblings with Rob.
Yay!
Yay! Boom, boom, yeah! Boom, boom. Look at it. Boom, boom. Boom. Boom, boom, boom.
What up, everybody? This your boy B-Rob, and I'm back with another edition of the Random Ramblings with Rob podcast. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for coming back each and every week, or however you listen to podcast. If you're a new listener, I appreciate you very much for giving my show a try. I'm very interested on how you've come to find me and hearing my soft and sultry voice. And if somebody referred you to me, give that person a high five a day in your vicinity, or do it virtually, or use a emoji on your phone, just some other means of communication if you're not in the general vicinity and whatnot. But yeah, got a guest this episode, as per every episode. And this dude here, I started podcasting in going on almost 3 years ago. January 13th will be the anniversary of this show. And when I came into podcasting, I come across this guy or whatever, and I kind of been tracking him because he's a fan of professional wrestling and I'm a fan of professional wrestling, and he's turned me on to three individuals that I've been still keeping an eye on or whatever. One being Kiera Hogan, who is a former guest of this show. Another one being Athena Reese, which is now freaking Ember Moon, and another lady that I follow on Instagram, not too creepily, Faye Jackson.
Oh wow.
So he introduced me to those individuals. I see this dude on the interwebs has all kinds of championship belts and shit. Did a little bit of graphic design, which I like to do that as well. I seen them doing some kind of broadcasting, playing drums in the church. Goddamn, doing some stuff with ESPN, hosting radio shows, doing podcasts, doing some NWO-esque type vignettes. And I was like, well, goddamn, this show is coming up on 3 years, and why in the fuck, since I've been internet stalking this dude, haven't I had him on the show yet? So my guess this episode, this edition of the Random Ramblings with Rob podcast is Brian Waters. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me on. Wow, man, it's amazing how the internet, you can learn so much from somebody, and I just think it's amazing that you said it was Kiera Hogan, Athena, or now we know her as Ember Moon, and Faye Jackson. Those are three good interviews I had. I'm mad about the Athena one because it was so close to the speakers at WrestleCon in 2013, and I remember thinking, like, man, this girl is it. You remember when she is now called the Eclipse, but at the time it was called the O-Face, and
the Hussy Buster.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, you took it back, and then just, seeing when she did that, I was just like amazed. And then, fast forward, then there was, watching Kiera Hogan. I was right there when I was working with WSU Wrestling when she became the Spirit Champion, and I was like literally ringside as holding the phone because I was doing the social media for them. And I was like, let's be real. I knew she was going to get the title. I knew she was going to get the title before she did. So I wanted to make sure I was in that right spot, that right location. Because I was real close with the booker, and, I guess I'm breaking the fourth wall here. But he told me, he said, yeah, we're putting the belt on Kiera Hogan. I said, wait, you just put the belt on Sue Young last month or last show. He said, don't worry, we got big plans for her. But then, and especially like Faye Jackson, I actually met Faye Jackson at, if it wasn't that show, it was the next WSU show when she came there, and, she was just somebody hanging out in the locker room, and, we got cool, and now we talk here and there, probably about once, 2-3 times a month, just checking in. So, it's really cool. It got to give a shout out to the real Dwayne Allen, because the NWO-esque video, that was something we had planned in 2015 when I was still working at ESPN. We said, we was trying to figure out, okay, man, when by this time, January, I knew I was coming back to Baltimore, and I said, look, this is what we're going to do, man. We gotta do it big. We got to come back, and he said, man, what if we could recreate this? And it was one thing to have an idea, but when you can actually put that together and make it happen, that was the, that was the fun part. Definitely the blessing right there.
Yeah. I mean, shit, how long has it, I mean, hold on, before I even get into all that stuff or whatever, you talking about breaking the fourth wall and stuff. When I had Kiera Hogan here on the podcast, it was right before she signed her freaking Impact deal or whatever.
Right.
And we was recording everything, and she told me, she's like, oh yeah, I just signed with Impact. I'm gonna start tapings in September or whatever the case may be. And we was just talking about it and everything. And then she was like, I think toward the end of the interview, or not too long after we finished speaking about it, she was like, could you not air that part? Because I haven't told anybody else yet, and I just want to make sure my shit is legit before I start, telling people what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, I can respect that. I respect your wishes. I cut it out the episode. I published the episode. The next day, she announced she was signing with Impact. I was like, motherfucker. I was like, you know how nice it would have been if you could have broke that, I said, you couldn't let me have the exclusive. Come on, man.
Yeah,
But you talk about WrestleCon. I got to meet her at WrestleCon as well. And
okay, which one? This year?
Yeah, this past year.
Okay.
And it's TV actually does, change a person, like how they look on TV versus what they look like in real life. Because like I see you on TV and all these videos and everything. I'm like, okay. And then I seen that in person. I was like, well, okay. Well, goddamn,
Yeah.
But it was kind of awkward for me because like, it's weird because, like, all right, I can sit here and talk with you. We having a conversation and everything. I mean, I feel like I can talk to anybody, but like, people in the professional wrestling realm, because see how I did that wrestling realm.
I know.
I see them on TV. I watch wrestling just about all my life, and I got so much respect for the business and them, and the individuals that do the craft. So, I mean, I get in their vicinity and I see these people, even though I may have talked to like her before, doing these interviews, I was nervous as fuck. And I didn't want to, I was like nervous to talk to any of the motherfuckers in there. Cause like, I never been to a WrestleCon before or a convention of any form. So that in itself was a culture shock for me. I never did a meet and greet. I never did none of that shit before. So I guess there's an etiquette with doing things like that, because like what I peeped from it being my first experience, it was like, okay, some of these motherfuckers was charging to like take a picture with them. And some people were charging for, an autograph, or some weren't. And so I was just like, I didn't know who to go up to and be like, hey, can I snap a picture with you real quick? Because he was like, I $20. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't know you was a pay booth. My bad. So I just kind of walked by, like I seen Teddy Long. I shook his hand. I was like, thank you for everything you've done for professional wrestling and the impact you've made on many different people's lives. Because like me personally, if somebody came up to me and said some shit like that to me, I've been like, well, goddamn, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Because I feel like often people don't tell other people things like that,
Yeah.
But yeah, Kiera Hogan is the bomb.
Yeah, man, one of the things just in this business, I would never dare say that I'm like a super, super host or somebody who's, big time name or whatever. But I have been in places where people have come up to me and say, hey, man, especially when we first started this, and, going to the local independent shows, people come and say, hey, man, it's good to see you, meeting somebody on the show. I met you, I listen to your show all the time. And I'm like, okay, cool. My first thing is, okay, so how'd you find it? They say either YouTube or a friend. And says, okay, it's always been thank you. I appreciate it. And even like when I take my belts, shout out to my brother Corey from the Wrestling Marks of Excellence. He will have, Corey has, I think, I haven't lost count, probably 15 belts.
Well, damn.
And, a lot of times, like when we take our belts and people say, hey, can I take a picture of you? And most of the time it's with him. You see it with him all the time. But just like if, he'll have like his 5 and I have my 2 and I'm like, okay, whatever. And people will come up to, can we get a picture with y'all? It's absolutely, especially kids. And I know one time we was at WrestleMania 28 and a former friend was like, man, you just let everybody take a picture with your belt. I'm like, man, look. these kids, I've been there. Even some of the adults, maybe they can't afford them, or they just choose not to buy them. Some people say they can't bring themselves to buy them. I tell people in a minute, I'm not a sneakerhead. I haven't bought a belt in about 5 years, but I plan to soon. I want the one that Daniel Bryan holds right now.
Yeah.
But I look at it like, hey, there's a bond. It's an instant bond, an instant connection when you meet another wrestling fan. I work at Johns Hopkins in media relations, but in our marketing and communications office, I never forget, one of my good friends now, I met him because I was standing there talking to a coworker about some real work, and I just happened to glance over, and he had a Finn Balor beanie attached to his book bag, and I just slid over and said, "Wait, you're a wrestling fan?" He's like, "Huh?" He kind of looked at us like, well, how would you know? And I said, I see you got Finn Balor right there. You're a wrestling fan. He's like, yeah, this happened probably about 5 or 6 months ago. We every day, or at least one part during the day, if not, I didn't get a chance to talk to him today. Definitely gonna talk to him tomorrow because we got to talk Survivor Series. But we always talk wrestling, and it's just that connection, an instant bond, as you alluded to. How you was able to find me and me able to find you.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's $1 billion industry now, with the new deals that WWE is taking on with Fox and all this other stuff. And you would feel like a lot of people would know what wrestling is. It's kind of like podcasting, man. It's just like podcasting been around for over a decade now, maybe even longer than that. And still, to this day, 2018, there's a lot of people who don't know what a podcast is, how to download the motherfucker, how to listen to it, and everything. So, I mean, it's just weird. It's like, I keep using the word, but it's like a little niche thing or whatever. And if you in the know about it, it's like a secret handshake. It was like, yeah, I see that.
And like how much work goes into this, and the one thing that I always appreciate about your show was the presentation. Like you said, you do a little bit of graphic design, and one thing I'm gonna do is before I listen to a show, I'm always going to look at the graphics, and I can tell if somebody if there's actually creativity or they just put some words together, and so I could always see that with yours, and the amount of time that it goes into this. I remember, like for instance, when we started this, and I had another show for my cousin. It was called Wrestle Talk with Bear and B-Dub, and it was like, okay, I was excited because I knew how to do the recording, and I hadn't even gone back to school yet. I took a 3-year hiatus from college in between community college and undergrad. But I went to, me and my cousin, we were just talking. It was right after his dad died, and we, just talking. I would call him, check on him, say, man, just want to check on you, good. And he was I always considered him the wrestling encyclopedia. Like, he would get up and, he would just ask me random questions, even sometimes to this day. And he was like, man, I watched this thing. And I was like, man, I want to say something. I said, man, we can create a show. We created our show, but it wasn't any type of like great presentation. I was like a real amateur in Photoshop at the time. And it was cool, but then, he kind of got distracted and got in trouble, and, happened to go back to school the second semester. That's where I met the real Dwayne Allen. I was just talking about the wrestling show. My friend, she was talking about it. I was like, wait, we ain't got to talk about my show right now. She was like, no, he got a show. And Dwayne is like, ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And this was 2011 here. And, that spring and into that summer, we built the wrestling realm, and here we are 7 years later. And it's crazy because we really had you could say a 3-year hiatus. We were still doing like social media stuff, but as far as the actual show, it was a break because I had moved to Connecticut, and it was like, man, but shout out to my boys on the Flex Zone. They would have us on there. So you're still getting a piece of the wrestling realm. It just might not be the formal show like, we were able to eventually do again.
Okay, cool. Man, it's just what you were saying about the graphic design and everything. I'm like relearning. And it's like I still have the knowledge from the computer. I could sit in front of the computer and use Photoshop, pretty well. But it's like now I'm relearning it through the iPad and all the other mobile devices and everything. Because I tell you what, I got that iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. I freaking love that shit, man.
So you got Photoshop on there?
Well, they don't have. They just announced with the new release of these iPad Pros that they are doing a full functional Photoshop app for it. They have like a smaller version of it already out there.
Like on the cell phone?
Yeah, but they coming out with a fully functional Photoshop app for the new iPad Pros and everything. But there's another app that is Photoshop equivalent called Affinity. So they got Affinity Photo, which is like Photoshop. Then they have Affinity Designer, which is like Adobe Illustrator.
Okay.
So I'm using both of those on my iPad right now. If you ever see me do any of like the little doodle sketches, the digital sketches or whatever, I use Adobe Draw.
I had to try that out.
Yeah, Adobe Draw is fucking fun. That's the one that I started out with when I started using the tablet with the pencil. But I use Adobe Draw is free, and then I went over to my art program called Procreate. Which you can use various brushes, make it look like an oil painting and all kind of other effects and everything. Sometimes I do it in Adobe Draw, then I transfer it to Procreate, and I kind of give it those other touches because they have a more variety of brushes and textures and everything. And then when I do like logos and text fonts and everything, I use the Affinity Designer. So I'm just like retooling and relearning, looking at YouTube videos, trying to do all this stuff over again on the freaking tablet because it's weird without a goddamn keyboard.
Yeah, and I'm gonna definitely check it out. I have an iPad Pro that I use for work, so I'm gonna definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, because it's easier with I found with I probably just don't know how to do it yet because like I said, I'm relearning all this stuff. But with Adobe Draw, like I can draw a circle, and as long as the lines are connected, I can just long press inside the circle and it'll fill it in with whatever color I want.
Oh wow!
But with design, I think you have to use the pen tool like how you would in Photoshop and put it on fill so you can do all the other crazy junk. But yeah, I digress. We spoke on wrestling, all the championship belts and stuff you hold and everything. What got you into professional wrestling? What drew you to it?
I was in the womb, and my mother said, and she will tell you, she actually wrote about this in a school paper when she went back to college. She knew I was going to be a boy when every time she was on bed rest, and every time Vince McMahon would come on the television, and I was born in '86. So yeah, this is like the spring of '86. I was born in August. He would say, "Welcome to the World Wrestling Federation," and I would start jumping. And she said, and she wrote in the paper, and this child was doing backflips and suplexes in my stomach. But I remember just growing up, it was just kind of always there. Like, I don't remember a time where I wasn't watching it, except a brief hiatus when we didn't have cable in '90s. We got rid of our cables the summer '97, and then I forgot that there was a Shotgun Saturday Night until the June of '98, right before the '98 King of the Ring. And it was like I got right back into it at the perfect time. But that was the thing. It was watching it with my uncles, and my dad and my grandfather, and my mother eventually, being on bed rest, got her hooked on wrestling because she hated it growing up because my grandfather would watch and my uncles would watch, and she was like, I don't like this mess. But because she couldn't get up, and this is the day when you didn't have a remote, you had to get up and turn the TV. So next thing you know, she got hooked. Hulkamania ran wild, and she was a huge fan, which led to me becoming a huge fan. And I just kind of stayed with it.
Man, we've seen just life in general change from the time, we were young boys all the way up until now. As far as professional wrestling goes, what do you think has changed the most for the better and for the worse?
So I'll start with the worst. The worst is the amount of access we have to it. and I'll give you this example. So we watch it differently. A lot of people like to talk about ratings, but you really can't bank on that as much because we consume television different. Case in point, yesterday, the real Dwayne Allen and I was sitting here watching Survivor Series at my house.
Yeah.
My son is in the basement with us playing his Nintendo Switch. And he said something like, oh, what's going on? But he's got his head in his Switch. Now, if we fast forward this 20 years ago, if my dad and my uncle would have been in our house, which, Survivor Series back in the day was 4 pay-per-views, and I always say that the Survivor Series was, at that time was the one on Wednesday night, the day before Thanksgiving, But I was in tune. Nothing else mattered. I wasn't playing my Game Boy, didn't want to play nothing. But we looked at him and we was like, why don't you just watch the pay-per-view? He's like, well, I'll catch it later. And that's and Dwayne was like, he's a spoiled wrestling kid. They have access to it. So while that's great because we don't have to spend nowhere near the amount of money, like literally every pay-per-view, and I think about like, man, I thought I was like, wait, I think my parents bought me WrestleMania 93, which was, I should say, WrestleMania 9, SummerSlam 93. I want to say we got Survivor Series 93, Royal Rumble 94, WrestleMania 10. So that's 4 or 5 straight pay-per-views, right? And I just realized that just now talking, as when they started doing it in your houses, I wasn't getting those all the time.
Yeah.
So I think because of what's changed for the worse is that sometimes that instant access with social media, while it's great, it can be annoying because we tend to, 1, forget they're human beings. 2, with kayfabe being dead, you have people who get upset if they see Charlotte and Ronda Rousey make an appearance today because they just beat the smack out of each other. But at the same time, what's great is when you have this network, you have all this access to wrestling at your fingertips. So the WWE puts on pay-per-views overseas, we can watch that at work depending on the type of job you have.
Yeah.
But I will say the thrill of picking up the phone on Monday mornings or Monday after school is gone. Remember when, if you didn't order a pay-per-view, but say your best friend or your cousin did, you could always pick up the phone. Hey man, what happened?
Yeah.
And that used to be, for me, the summer of '98. I'm pretty sure I guess it was illegal back then, but I guess we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you knew somebody who had a hot box.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so one of my friends had one, and he saw every pay-per-view. So whenever there was a pay-per-view, that would be the first thing I would do that Monday morning during the summer. Let me pick up and call my boy Daryl. Yo, who won? And I would ask him for the whole rundown, So that's the thing. I understand kayfabe is dead, but sometimes, you just want a little bit of it. And I think the main thing that bothers me is just the fact that people they did the internet. While the internet is a great thing because hence we're having this show because of the internet.
Yeah. And
it's cool that you and I could just sit back and talk wrestling. So if something happens in a day and age, like, breaking news happened during the day, I go to my man Phil, who I work with, and just say, hey man, did you hear this? Did you hear that? It's just like, how you're a huge sports fan. How when a trade happens, you want to run talk about it with somebody. Well, now we have social media, so you can DM somebody, you can text somebody and say, hey, you see this, So that's the cool part. But at the same time, when you can sit back and enjoy a show, and then people go in and then they just completely rip and complain about it, then it's like, all right, it's enough of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the gift and the curse, right?
Yep.
Because I mean, I spoke about it many times. I sat at WrestleMania down there in New Orleans, and I seen people boo and scream and be pissed off at Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. So and it was like bizarre because it was like, oh, you suck, and then the person that they were booing the whole show when they would win or whatever the hell, like I think in one case it was Brock Lesnar, he was like, yeah, you suck, I hate you, go back to UFC, and that motherfucker won, and that same person was like, yeah, I knew he could do it, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yep.
It's the whole thing of like, all right, I'm here just to kind of like fit in with everybody else, but at the same time, you don't have to fit in with everybody else. Just because this whole section over here is booing because you read the shit of all the negative shit on the internet or whatever, doesn't mean you have to feel the same way, you know?
Now, do you, in WrestleMania season, do you kind of like turn it off as far as like the internet rumors?
Well, I mean, it's weird in any case because I try, whether it be wrestling or movies or whatever it is, I try to avoid everything. And it's hard to do because I do this. So yeah. I'm always on the internet, you know, for this. And but the thing that would piss me off the most is like, all right, I would have to work or something, or my schedule would prevent me from watching a pay-per-view or, you know, WWE, whatever the case may be. And I avoid it all day. I don't get on Twitter as much because I know I follow a whole bunch of wrestling fans. I don't get on Facebook because I have a sprinkling of wrestling fans on there that might retweet some stuff. And Instagram, you know, I try hard to stay off of that as well. But it is something that I'm doing for this motherfucking show that requires me to pick up my phone and damn open one of these apps. And the first thing I see, not even scrolling down, not even scrolling up, but as soon as I open the app, somebody, a title change, somebody holding a belt. I'm like, God damn it.
I tell you, you brought up a soft spot right there. Royal Rumble 2016. If you may remember, that was the same night as the NFC Championship game between the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. So as that game, which was a blowout, by the way, is wrapping up, you know, I'm a Ravens fan, but you know, we know what color Cam is, so that's what I was rooting for.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm on Instagram and I'm scrolling up, and what do I see? The WWE official Instagram has a picture of AJ Styles. I was heated. I'm like, you really just gave away the surprise on Instagram. And that's what they kept doing for every, like, and it was like, okay, here's the next person. Here's the next person. I'm like, this is whack, you know? And it was so funny because my son, he didn't even know who AJ Styles was. He was like, I was like, he's here, yes. And he was like, who's that? And then 6 months later, he's one of his favorite wrestlers.
I think AJ Styles is everybody's favorite wrestler. But yeah, man, it fucking sucks sometimes, man. I just like, I legitimately want to be surprised. I had we have a podcast group on Twitter, you know, a little group DM and everything, and just we all speak between each other, you know, compare notes, you know, bounce ideas off each other, a little think tank. And dude had a theory on Avengers 4, the new movie that's coming out or whatever. He was like, hey man, could y'all read this and give me your thoughts? And I was like, I was half in and out of the conversation, so I seen, hey, could you read this for me? And then as soon as I pull it up, I see the headline of Avengers 4 theory. I was like, nope, I can't read this shit. I want to know nothing about Avengers 4. I don't want to know no theories. I don't want to know no hypothesis, no thesis, nothing. I don't want to know nothing about the daggone movie. I want to wait till May when it come out, and I want to go see it fresh. Because it was the same thing with that freaking Captain Marvel movie. They dropped the trailer. Goddamn, they dropped the trailer, and I was like, nope, not gonna look at it.
I feel you.
Because I mean, it just, because I'm used to that old stuff, man. It's just like you was talking about the pay-per-views, and like I never bought any back then because they were so expensive. But as soon as that motherfucker hit the freaking VCR shelf, I was in Blockbuster, freaking Video Gallery, somewhere getting the tape so I can rent it and watch it.
Oh man, Blockbuster, man. You know, I got my share of wrestling videos from them as well.
Yeah, and it was just like with that place toward the end when it was like going down and everything. I used to be in there even more frequently because they would have the bomb ass movie sales and shit. You can get like 5-6 movies for $20. I was like, all right, buy them up.
Yeah.
No, I mean you have a quite vast collection of professional wrestling belts. Is there anything else that you collect or whatever? Because like me, I got movies all over this place right now. I would, like I said, you would only see a silhouette if I turn the camera on right now. But
so you might can see, you might can see right here is my whole collection of wrestling Blu-rays as well as wrestling DVDs. So on the left are the biographies of the Blu-ray biographies, and then in the middle are the Blu-ray specialty matches or like the True Story of Royal Rumble or Attitude Era, stuff like that. Then this is, of course, the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Then I have all the, these are just the biography DVDs. And then all the specialty DVDs, and then of course PlayStation 4 games. But one of the things I got into was the Funko Pops.
I knew you was gonna say it.
So, man, I would have to count. I think I'm up to about 50. And so here's the thing: I'm probably one of the few people that who's a wrestling fan that was not a comic book fan. Mm-hmm. Just never really got into it. The only thing that was, I guess, comic book-esque was Power Rangers and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So I have the Mighty Morphin, because I didn't like the other ones, but I have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Pops. And then I have the Mortal Kombat Pops. But, I started to I was like, nah, that's it. First it was just going to be wrestling. And my first pop was the Hollywood Hogan that came with the WWE video game. And then so I was waiting, and I got that when I was in Connecticut. I was like, all right, I'm not getting no more until I move. But then I saw kind of a steal with Daniel Bryan and Macho Man. I said, all right, I'm gonna get those, and then I'm not getting any more. And once I moved back to Baltimore, I got a bunch of them, and I had a good friend of mine who hooked me up with some. So I have quite a few of those. So, but I don't do the action figures only because I never got into it as a kid. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because I'll buy my son the action figures and he'll play with them. I just go ahead and let him enjoy it. He likes looking at the Funko Pops. He's like, oh, Dad, you got this one, you got that one. I got him. I had a deal. It was like GameStop was running a deal. Buy like one or buy two, get one free. And I already had I was getting Braun and somebody else. And I was like, well, I need to get one more. And I was like, all right, you know what? Give me the Black Panther one. I got that for him. And he's like, can I open it? I said, yeah, you can open it. It's yours, but I don't open mine.
Yeah, I don't either. And that was the thing I had to do to kind of limit myself. I was like, all right, this how the Funko Pop thing happened for me. I seen it. I started seeing it all taking off and everything. I was like, okay, so I don't get too deep into this. I will only limit my Funko Pop collection to wrestling figures.
Yeah.
So
that's the same here.
So I did that, and then my second rule was I can only get the Funko Pop if I'm in person. So I can't go online and in order the Funko Pop. I have to be in the store with the Funko Pop so I can buy it. That's the only way I can get it. So it has to be wrestling, and I have to be able to go somewhere physically and buy it. So that keeps me from getting online and fill up my goddamn Amazon cart full of junk and buying all these Funko Pops. But,
I definitely got the Ultimate Warrior that way.
Yeah, but I slowly started breaking my rule. I bought one Deadpool Funko Pop, and then that was the only one outside of wrestling. And I think I bought the Young Bucks Funko Pops because I couldn't find them in a Hot Topic, and I really wanted those. Mm-hmm. And
I haven't been able to find those either. The one time I did see them, the box was messed up. And I will say I did put myself on a hiatus when we were in the midst of closing on our home. And I said to myself, I didn't even tell my wife this, but I said, all right, you know what? I'm not buying a Funko Pop until we move. And lo and behold, we moved on a Friday. That Monday, I went to Target and I got Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Because it was, and Target, for the most part, had them cheapest because I think theirs was only $7.99. That's where I got Eva Marie's.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Eva Marie?
You know, I liked her. You know, so here's I have a thing where I always respect anybody who's willing to get into the squared circle.
Yeah.
I went in there and shout out to Kendrick. What's his nickname? But yeah, Kendrick. He's a wrestler here in Baltimore, and you know, some places on the East Coast. Has a very vampire gimmick.
Yeah.
He showed me how to take a bump. What happened? I was working on.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I was working with RCW, Real Championship Wrestling. It was the second to last show, and he said, I got in the ring and I was just kind of bouncing around the ropes, and he was like, "Want me to show you how it's done?" I said, "Sure." So he showed me how to run the ropes. Then he said, "All right, so we do this thing called bumps." Now in my head, I'm like, I don't need to learn that. Yeah. But, you know, my pride as a man.
Yeah. And then he's taking his time to offer you this knowledge, you know. I mean,
exactly.
You can't turn that down.
And if I do that, I'm disrespecting the business, right? So he said, you know, we do this thing called bumps. And he showed me how to take a bump. To tuck your chin. First time I didn't tuck my chin, man, I kid you not, I saw some stars. Then I tried again. And I was like, oh. He said, yeah, it takes a while. You got to get used to it. My shoulders was hurting for a whole 3 days. And I said, you know what? I never did anyway. But that's one of the reasons why I don't call it fake. Mm-hmm. And while there are some very bad wrestlers out there, people who shouldn't have stepped in, you know, I will respect them for trying. Like Eva Marie, you know, you watch Total Divas, and I know a lot of that stuff is for show, but I respect her for getting in the ring. Yeah. Now, the same way I say that now, that guy named Enzo Amore, sometimes just look at him like, dude, I don't know what's up with you. But, you know, I tell people all the time, if you know, I will correct anybody. Say, oh, yeah, you know, that's fake, right? That's predetermined.
Yeah, scripted.
You know? Yep. Do not call the business fake unless you're in it. If you're Kevin Nash or somebody, yeah, you have the right. But when I see people, you know, I went to WrestleCon for WrestleMania 29 with Mia Yim, rode up with her, you know, seeing people like her putting their bodies on the line. A year ago, we're coming up on a 1-year anniversary when she, you know, broke her ankle in the ring, you know, just seeing people like that. You know, I was talking to Ariella Nix on Twitter yesterday. She was talking about she wrestled 2 matches. I'm like, man, you know, I was getting ready to put the Wrestling for the Culture together for this week. And I'm like, you know what? This is why I don't call this business fake, because it's too much. It hurts, you know?
Yeah, man. Because I've told the story many times about me, you know, doing training. You know, mm-hmm. I got to actually train for almost a year.
Oh, wow.
And I can remember the first actual contact within the training. Mm-hmm. Big ass 6'3", 300-pound motherfucker clothesline me. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't feel good. Teeth clacked together and everything. And then I was just on the ground. It was real quick.
Yeah.
But, man, you talk about what it is. I lost it. I was reliving that goddamn clothesline just now. I forgot where the hell I was going. I was going down just then. Mm-hmm. But shit. ESPN. Mm-hmm. I remember, like I said, I was stalking your profiles and stuff, and you know, I seen you talking about it, and the opportunity actually came up. I seen you in the studio a couple times or whatever. What was that experience like?
So, ESPN, man, it was a great experience. You know, I met some lifelong friends there. You know, I got the job through the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in 2013, held in Orlando. And, you know, I went down there, got a chance to, you know, and when I tell you NABJ is, you know, short term, it's a party. And it's a great, you have black people all together where 9 to 5, it's an opportunity to network and grow. Afterwards, it's party time, you know. Now, granted, you still got to be on your P's and Q's, but, you know, anytime you put black people together, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
For me, you know, it was like, I was like focused. My goal is I had to land a job. Fresh out of college, I did not want to be like, oh man, you know, got this degree, can't use it. So I went there. They had the job fair that Thursday. ESPN does this mentor breakfast. Did the mentor breakfast at, what time was it? 7:30. About 8:45, it was over 9 o'clock. The job fair started 9:03. I was in ESPN's line talking to them, and there's a lady by the name of Tracy Mack gave me, an interview with her. She said, well, would you want to move to Connecticut? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, it's cold up there. I was like, how cold is it? She said, well, here's Aaron. You could talk to him. Aaron went to school in Virginia, so he can kind of help you get adjusted to climate change. And Aaron and I are still friends to this day. Neither one of us still there, but we're still friends to this day. He hosts the No Rules podcast. And, going there, I did multiple jobs. I sound like a wrestler. I did multiple assignments. One, I was in sales quality control, which you're watching ESPN2. Well, my assignment was to watch ESPN2 all day. So watch, at the time, it was Mike and Mike in the morning, First Take. At the time, it was His and Hers. Make sure all the sales elements ran properly. So they had the Subway Fresh Take hotline. So anytime they had a guest on the phone, so I had to make sure that those ads ran, make sure that the anchors said what they were supposed to say. Or if it was watching a college football game, make sure, like, if they did the Geico play of the week or something like Aflac trivia question, stuff like that. So I did that for 4 months, moved on to what they call ABC News 1. ABC News 1 was all the ABC affiliates throughout the country would go through them to get footage. So if you have a small station, say in Texas, who don't have the resources to send somebody to cover the Mavericks game, but they want the highlights, they contact ABC News 1. So what I would do, send the Maverick highlights I would send all highlights over to New York, the central station. As they get it, they would send it out to ABC News 1. So I did that for about 2.5 months, then moved on to highlights, which was just, kind of watching the game, and then you had to edit the highlights. So I remember growing up, I thought just like some big time producer who like edited the highlights for Sports Center. I was like, no, that's the production assistant. So my first highlight was a Lakers game between the Lakers and the Blazers, which the Lakers won. It was like, man, it was really cool. My first highlight was my favorite team. Then after I did that, I moved to Mike and Mike for 7 months, which was fun. I got to the schedule was 3:30 in the morning to 10 in the morning. So it was an easy schedule, Monday through Friday. So it was great. And I worked that, especially around the time my daughter was born. So I was able to be there. And then afterwards, I worked in social media, which really helped make me more marketable because I was able to learn how to produce social media content, which is how I ended up at Johns Hopkins. But during that time, I got a chance to see Brock Lesnar. We actually produced. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say what happened. So Brock Lesnar, and somebody might come back and get me, but it's not like I'm leaking the footage. One, because I don't have it anymore, unfortunately. But you may have heard of Reese Waters. He was on this. Yeah. So Reese and Brock was doing this content for social media, and I had to film it, and it was mind you, this is right before. So the night before, Brock was in Minnesota, and he came to Connecticut the next day because we're getting ready for SummerSlam 2015. Remember, that was him versus Undertaker when Undertaker made him pass out. During that, so this was actually my last week, but I kind of said, wait a minute, Brock Lesnar's coming on Tuesday. So I went to my supervisor. I said, look, if Brock's coming, can I come in early? He was like, well, because what happened, I actually went to work on my day off to help them kind of get prepared. And I said, look, can I come in and work in the morning instead of in the evening? You already got 2 people in the evening. So he was like, yeah, that should be fine. So I said, cool. Yes, I'm going to get to see Brock. So we get there. It was like 8 o'clock. They already told us, WWE said, no, Brock cannot do nothing physical because we wanted him to like pick up a fax machine and stuff like that, right? They said, no, you can't do that. So it's a sit down with him and Reese Waters, and he was supposed to like make all these jokes, and the whole point was like kind of make some jokes, and Reese would try to make jokes, Brock wouldn't laugh, and that was supposed to be a part of it. Then we said, do not make fun of his ears, do not mention Hulk Hogan. What do Reese Waters do? He makes fun of his ears and he mentions Hulk Hogan. And I'll never forget, my boy Baron was standing next to me, and he said he had to look at me to make sure that the world was still moving, because he said when he looked at Reese and Brock, it looked like Brock was going to rip him apart. But afterwards, they took a selfie together, and at ESPN they had a no picture policy, because they want fans to they wanted the celebrities to not feel like they run into a bunch of fans. So that was the rules. Like, but if you work with the person, sometimes you might say, hey, can we grab a picture together? Or, but they had to put that in the rule book. Like, I got a picture with Chris Weidman from the UFC. But that was it. I think, I did see, like, when I was there, I saw Drake, I saw Lil Wayne, I saw Nelly, Shannon Sharp. But, this is when Shannon Sharp was in between CBS and Fox.
Ain't no problem.
Right. But I was mad, trust and believe, I was mad when The Rock was there and I didn't get to see him. And everybody was like, oh man. And I saw so many people take pictures with him. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I don't want to talk to none of y'all. I saw Hogan, but Hogan was like, I saw him because they had this special something going on. And my friend texted me, Hulk Hogan is on campus. I said, okay, cool. Got in my car, drove over there, man. And he was like pulling off going, so him and Jimmy Hart was getting in his truck, getting ready to leave. But, it was great. I helped them with, so I was off doing WrestleMania 31, but the person who was working didn't really know wrestling. So while I was off, I was writing the tweets for him via text message, and me, Daniel Bryan, now being my favorite wrestler, I wanted to make sure Daniel Bryan got some love. So I said, when, remember he won the Intercontinental title, I said, make sure you put Daniel Bryan, the leader of the Yes Movement, wins the Intercontinental Champion, becoming a Grand Slam champion. Like, I made sure that was in there. Then I said, all right, we got to write something for Cena, because he's beat Rusev, and he's the first person to beat Rusev, and now he's a U.S. champion. Then I said, oh, now here's how you explain Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank. And I remember the joke was when Steve Levy did the read on SportsCenter, and they was like, and he has this briefcase, and he's going out there, But I got to work with Jonathan Coachman too, and Todd Grissom. My favorite person was Robert Flores, though, without a shadow of a doubt, the absolute one, probably one of the best people ever to work at ESPN, best anchors, because Rob would sometimes, mind you, and this is how we talked about having the access to the network earlier, right?
Yeah.
Rob would sit there, and I would be working, getting ready for his show. He did the Midnight Sports Center, and I would be putting together stuff. And I was like, hey, Rob, you watching NXT? He said, yeah, man, this time. Hey, Brian. He was like, come over here, come over to the station. Man, look at this. And I was like, okay, Rob, I got to get ready to work on your show. I can't watch wrestling with you, And then he would log in. Especially when he discovered he could log in and watch Monday Night Raw. So that stuff was like really cool, being able to work with somebody like him.
Sweet. Man, you just went down memory lane, didn't you?
Yeah.
You was going, man.
My bad.
No, that's fine. That's what this is for. That's what I need to hear. Well, shit. I mean, as far as the things that you're doing now, whatever. I mean, what are you doing now? Because I don't think you do that anymore, do you?
No. So I'm working at Johns Hopkins Medicine in media relations. Basically, I just actually got back from Chicago last week, where I went to the American Heart Association scientific meeting. So basically, I just get to produce social media content. The doctors come out with the complicated research, and we put it on social media so that the news can pick it up and whatnot. So I'm doing that, and of course, still doing the wrestling realm, doing my weekly column, Wrestler for the Culture. Well, it started off as an article and internet web content, but now it turned into a video series. So and just pretty much doing that.
Sweet. Now, as far as the social media marketing and everything, what are one of your snags that you run into doing that type of job? Because I can imagine it can be frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, man. It's one of those things. Sometimes you can think you got something really hot, right? And then it doesn't really take off. But then you think, oh, man, this is going to be whack. And then, boom, it goes crazy. So that's one of the things. I think one of the things, my biggest, I'm going to go ahead and not take credit for it, but I'll say I was a part of having the vision for it, was at Hopkins when they did the first ever whole penis transplant. And we had the animation. And me and my coworker were on the same page. It was like, we don't need to just tweet the image. We need to actually tweet this animation video. So when we tweet it, people will see how it's done. They did this really cool animation somebody put together. And then the response we got on Twitter was crazy. Over 2 million views, over 4,000 retweets. Something, it was our biggest, most retweeted tweet ever. And then of course the trolls, that was what made it great, because we really sat there laughing, and then just having it, when that happened, we had to deal with the media requests. So I spent part of my job is also, when the media comes, is to escort them to the doctors, because you can't just have the cameras rolling around. So as long as my badge shows like, okay, I'm a media rep for Hopkins, is fine. So being able to take them, there and have them deal with the media, that was pretty cool. But definitely some of the snags can be that, trying to figure out creative ways to get people to understand the complicated science, especially when I was at the American Heart Association meetings, because I was like, man, I don't understand none of this stuff. It was like all a different language to me. But my coworker, I always say she's probably one of the smartest people I know, because she couldn't take that. And she was like, so this is what happens, and this is why your blood does this. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So just being creative in general, to where people rely on you to make things and kind of make their vision a real thing. How many times, because I know it's happened to me, how many times have you just kind of did a prototype for something, just to kind of get it out of your head onto a paper or something like that, or to a monitor, and it's just your prototype, you're not done with it, you haven't buffed out the rough edges and whatnot, and somebody saw it and it was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen, that's exactly what I wanted?
Man, it's happened a few times, Yeah, it's happened a few times. My uncle, a lot of times, my uncle who actually got me into wrestling, and he's more like, we're 10 years, close to 11 years apart, so he's more like a big brother. But, he got me into wrestling, as well as he taught me how to play drums. He's asked me to do some work for him, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, all right, here, what you think of this? He's like, oh, yeah, this is exactly what I want. I'm like, oh, okay, I could have probably did better.
So, we talked about wrestling and other things quite a much. You was talking briefly about how your uncle taught you how to play drums and everything, and I seen you getting down and everything. And is that part of your family or whatever? Is just is he the only one with the musical talent, or is it just like a family spread thing?
You could say it's family spread. So my grandfather used to sing gospel quartet back in the 60s, 70s. And he used to sing, it was probably about the 70s, he sang. My grandmother was singing, and, later when my mother got into it, and my other uncle was playing the bass guitar, then my uncle was closer to me in age. He started playing the drums at probably about, I think they said about 5 or 6. They said they went to take him to school, and the teacher said like he's already advanced. I started playing at the age of 5. My dad actually plays bass guitar. My dad, it's funny because my parents actually met in the gospel quartet field because my dad would see my grandfather, but he also would see my mother at some of the programs, as they call it. And he had told one of his guys, like, yeah, I want to talk to her, and this, that, and the other. He first took an interest. My mother was in a previous marriage, but then afterwards he found out she wasn't married anymore. So, he went and, talked to her, and they, got together, and I'm here. But yeah, my dad still, he still plays. He plays bass and he can play lead guitar. And then my mother doesn't sing. She sing in church on the choir. I've made the joke and said we need to get a family group together. My sister is getting ready to get married next year, and her fiance likes to sing. They used to always joke and call him Ruben Studdard. But my sister can sing, my mother can sing, my wife can sing. I can't. I wasn't gifted with that talent.
Yeah,
so I was.
Yeah, I was about to say you're kind of raspy right now. I don't think you got the in you.
Right, so like my uncle can actually sing too, the one who played drums. Every now and again he might, sing on Instagram or whatnot. But I started playing in a gospel family group with this guy, Eddie Williams, who was he sang with my grandfather back in the day, and his family, they kind of took me on as their additional member of the family. I'm 32 now. I've been with the group since I was 8, about 3 weeks after my 18th birthday. So, but yeah, I've been playing drums since, learned how to play at 5, but actually playing in the church and started at 12.
Yeah. I don't think I got to live up my drumming potential. I think it was about maybe 7th or 8th grade, because around here from where I'm from in Louisiana, like back then the high schools, all the black high schools at least, had like a rivalry at just about everything, and especially battle of the bands and everything like that. So before I got into high school, 7th, 8th grade, 7th grade, I was like, I'm gonna join the band, and I was like, I ain't know what I wanted to play. So they had all these instruments and shit. You can rent them and shit. You can buy your own and bring it in or whatever. And I was like, man, that's gonna be too expensive. So I was kind of conscious of my living situation, because like, all right, if I get this fucking trombone or whatever the hell now, I ain't gonna be able to get some other fly shit later on. So I was just like, man, I'm trying out for the drums. I mean, it's just 2 pieces of wood or whatever. It's 2 little sticks. I can afford that, right? So I did the little the beat copy test with the band teacher or whatever. She would play a beat on the table, and I had to copy hers and shit. And I did pretty good, but it was just like, I don't know, man. It was either favoritism or whatever the case may be, because it was just like a whole bunch of us on percussion, and everybody would get a turn to play, but I would never get to play like for school events. I mean, we would go to class and practices and everything, but like when we have like a pep rally or anything like that, I would never get to play in none of the events. And I was just like,
oh, that's whack.
Yeah, I was just like, man, fuck this. I mean, shit. I could read the notes. I can play the music. What the fuck? Why can't I play? So I just eased on out of it. I just was like, well, shit. I ain't gonna get the opportunity to play other than beating on my math books in the classroom. So I was like, I quit.
I don't blame you.
Shit, I tried to do the same thing with piano, but I figured out real quickly that all my fingers don't work like that.
Man, I took a piano, they called it keyboard in class in our high school. Took keyboard in 1 and 2, and I was, I still can't tell the difference between ascendo, crescendo, and all that. Like, I know what it means, but just like I don't understand how to apply that to the actual keyboard.
Yeah, because like I know where middle C is.
Yep, there you go. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Every good boy does fine.
Yeah.
All cows eat grass. Face.
Yeah, I could play a beat. Mary had a little lamb. Hey, I could do the little joint from Big. Dun, 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 dun. I could do that, but that's the extent of it.
So for my final, I had to play America the Beautiful, and I aced that. And of course, I was thinking WrestleMania, because that's Vince loves America the Beautiful, which I say, hey, with that's what they should sing instead of the national anthem. But that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. If you would start singing that, I would take a knee just now. Shit. But hey, man, I'm gonna have to wind it down right about here, man. I appreciate you after all this time, taking the time out to sit here and chat with me, man. I learned a lot about you. I learned you don't know how to work your microphone equipment over there for a little bit. And but as with any guest that comes on the show, especially you, because you introduced me to some fine wrestling figures in my life. You're welcome on the show anytime that you want to come back and promote anything, plug anything, or just bullshit about wrestling, man. I also do a wrestling podcast to where we're not that conventional, to where we always do spoilers and all this other bullshit. We just fuck around, talk about wrestling past, present, and future, and sometimes we talk. We got a segment on there called Promo in the Bank, to where we randomly cash in and do promos on each other.
Oh, nice.
So don't be trying to steal my ideas. It's copyrighted.
I won't, man. That's all you.
But before we go, man, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, or even elicit your services for social media.
Well, if you want to list the services, especially at B Waters Productions, but you can follow me, follow the stuff I'm doing at Brian H. Waters, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just search for me, Brian H. Waters. I'm very responsive, but because I just enjoy people, I enjoy talking. And then of course the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm, and that is Realm with a W. So shout out to my mother, because that was her idea as far as the spelling, and just to see wow, it's really become a brand. Yeah, so you can follow me there, follow Wrestling Realm on Instagram, Twitter, and of course subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you check out the NWO video. Look, that video is over a year old, but I'm gonna still plug the heck out of it because it took hours to make. And it took a couple hours to make, plus transferring all the footage so that when the real Dwayne Allen edited it, shout out to him, he had every single angle in which we was filming. So
yeah. But all right, man. Once again, I appreciate your time, and you're welcome to come back anytime you would like.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
And that was the delightful Brian Waters. It was great to finally speak with the man, voice to voice, and everything. Like I said, I've been Instagram and social media stalking him and whatnot, and he introduced me to Kiera Hogan, and it came full circle because I was able to get Kiera Hogan on the show and meet Kiera Hogan, and that might have never even happened if it wasn't for this guy. So I appreciate him very much for that. And yeah, check him out. Wrestling Realm, elicit some of his services that he offers for your companies, your brand, whatever it may be. Here we are on Christmas Eve 2018, and I'm just getting back from Louisiana, visiting family, friends, and whatnot. It was a great time. And now I'm back here spending the remainder of my off days at home here in Houston. Before I say anything else, I'd like to wish all of you the very happiest of holidays. I'm not going to say Merry Christmas. I just said Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, motherfuckers. But, enjoy the time that you have off if you have it. If you're working, just know that, depending on what your goals are, you putting your work in right now so you can achieve those things. So I wish you all the best in everything that you're doing out there. And from the Robinson family, we wish you the happiest of holidays. Yay! My 8-year-old's been running around for the past couple of days talking about it's almost Christmas. It's almost Christmas. The other two are jaded now. I mean, they're all damn near adults. My boy just turned 16 on the 23rd. So he's a little man. But then next month my oldest turns 18, and she'll be a little woman still. And then the 8-year-old is 30 already. So she already grown, but time is flying. So that's why I'm stressing that, you take the time to slow down, I guess. But whatever, do what you do. I don't know. I just feel weird. I get a little weird when I do these recordings and everything after it's past the scheduled time to do them, because I always set the mandate that I got to put the episode out on Sundays, and now I done flown all over the United States, not for real, but back and forth to Louisiana, having this unexpected time off with the freaking government shutdown and everything. I mean, it doesn't affect my paychecks or whatever, but I work at government owned buildings, so if no one's there to for me to secure, right, there's no need for me to be there. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, man. I'm just stumbling over my words. It's just weird right now, but appreciate you for listening, and got some great episodes coming up. Do I have another episode before we end the year? Let me check my calendar. I mean, I have another episode, but will it be out before? No, this is the last episode of 2018. So the next episode, I'm lying. I have one out on the 30th. My calendar is weird in my phone. I changed it to where, because usually when you look at a calendar, the first day of the week is Sunday. In my phone, the first day of the week is Monday. So I looked at it. Yeah, my bad. So there's one more episode left in 2018 for the Random Rambles with Rob. I don't know which one that is. I had to dig through the archives because I stack them and I shuffle them around. So look forward to the next episode. And with that being said, Merry Christmas once again. Happy holidays. You can find me on social media at It's B Rob. That's ITSBROB. If you want to talk professional wrestling and any other general shenanigans, that's the place to do it. If you want to follow this show on the internet, you can use at 3R Show on Twitter. You can just look up the Random Rambles with Rob on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll find it. Me and my wife should be recording a new episode of The Real Robinsons, which you can follow on Twitter at The Real Robinsons, and also Instagram at The Real Robinsons. Wrestling is Trash. New episodes are up right now. We just did a top 5 entrance themes, and I think at the time it was the TLC predictions, so you can see how horribly wrong we were in our predictions, or however right we were. And you can go to randomrobcast.com to find many different ways that you can help support the show and help it grow. You can use my Amazon links. You can buy merchandise from the merch store at wehavemerch.com. All the links for that are on randomrobcast.com, and you can be a patron. Just like so many of the people that supporting me right now. I very much appreciate y'all. Happy holidays to you all as well. I'm going to have something coming in for you within this new year and whatnot. So be checking for that in the mail. And the best way that you can support the show, the free way, you don't have to spend any money to do this. And you can carry this over into any other podcast that you listen to. You can like, subscribe, retweet, and write reviews, 5 stars preferably. But if it's anything 4 stars and below, leave some constructive criticism so we can try to make the show better for you or ignore you entirely. So with that being said, I'll see you next time. All right.